Here, found the button. What are you doing? You doing all right? You got a front row? I'll sit up for a week.
I'm gonna sit down. If you don't have to trip over his wheelchair. Who's this gonna die next to you? Okay. Are y'all married? Just did you been together forever? It's more fun to sleep. At Christian school you went to went out the door, didn't it? I'm sure you know. You know Miss America's on the night, and I don't know how live stream. I'm stupid on that stuff.
Me too, apparently.
He knows everything about that. He's a smart man.
It's 10.
Ready?
Steve, classic.
Let's call this meeting to order. You ready? Roll call.
Pankowski. Here. Lolly.
Here.
Rudick.
Here.
Scalzo. Here. Trent.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Now let's flag salute. Go ahead. I pledge allegiance to your flag of the United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, in liberty, justice for all.
Father, we come tonight with grateful hearts for this season, where we're able to celebrate the fact that you made it possible for us to join God in heaven. Lord, we pray that as we go through this season, we'll always remember that the spirit of Christmas belongs for the entire year. Pray that you'll bless those that protect us. You'll bless those that are sick. Lord, you'll find a way to bring peace and unity to this nation. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
I'd like to open up both these meetings, the City of Hara and the Hara Public Works simultaneously. And on the Hara side, we'll start with number 2, accept and approve the minutes of the 12/1/22 meetings, regular minutes. Have a motion.
I make a motion to accept the regular minutes.
Second.
Scalzo.
Yes.
Lolly.
Yes.
Pankowski.
Yes.
Rudick.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 3, accept and approve consent agenda. Item A is approved payment for TIF of $9,757.98. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Scalzo.
Yes.
Lolly.
Yes.
Pankowski.
Yes.
Rudick.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Item 4, there was no items taken off of it. Items 5, treasurer's report. Randy,
She's coming.
She's coming.
we moving too fast for you tonight? You're not quite ready for us? Okay.
Sales tax for November was over 296,000, and we budgeted 266, so we're 8.6% up on sales tax so far. Use tax for November was a little over 47,000, and we budgeted 50, so we're at about 0.5% up for the total.
Everything looking good overall on it? Appreciate that. Item B is a public hearing on the rezone of the property at 780, it's actually 780 Harrison. It's close to Northeast 10th and Harrison's where it is, but 780 Harrison. Do we have anybody here wanting to discuss that? Anybody with the housing authority?
one with Native American Housing. We're a nonprofit, and we're just rezoning it from ag to residential.
What they're doing there, it's a 1 acre tract, basically, right across from Claire Reynolds School on Harrison. And what they're planning on doing is they're rezoning that, we're rezoning that to R1A right now. I think your plans are later on to come back and actually do a lot split, and you're gonna wind up with 2 half-acre tracts is what they're planning on doing. But right now, they're just taking that one lot, it's A1, and it needs to be zoned R1 to do everything, so. Anybody else have any other questions on that?
Do you own that whole strip or just that 1 acre?
Just that
Just
1
the
acre there.
1 acre, okay, got it. And, the lot splits later,
Lots of space.
got it.
So I'm gonna close the public hearing since no one else has anything at this time. And then we're gonna go to discussion possible action to adopt ordinance 2226 at the recommendation of the planning commission. And that's, brought this to the planning commission and they recommended that we do the rezone.
Let me ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
The lot north of it, John Barnes, Dan Barnes' place there, is that R1A or is that ag?
I cannot
And then
answer.
what's south of it, is that, there's 3 houses, do we know if that's ag or?
I cannot answer that. I didn't look at those on.
Isn't
I can.
Okay,
They're ag.
they're ag?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the back of ours.
Okay.
Yes, sir. They're all ag.
So then when we're going the R1A, we're extending this zone here, we're just taking that 1 acre.
Well, it's actually cleaning up some of the stuff that we didn't do years ago when it was, that should have been probably rezoned years ago as R1, and it wasn't done. It was just left as A1, so this
Is that 1 acre?
is 1 acre, so you can do that.
Well, I understand that, but there was nobody ever asking for it before.
Right, but they're wanting to do a lot split is
I
what
know.
they're wanting to do.
So now when you say we're cleaning it up, it was never going to be, it was ag.
It was but it was right there on Harrison Street.
And so Tom and Jan Barnes, and so are them other 3 houses that you back up to, and they're all ag.
Right.
Okay. I have no problem with it making it, the R1, I was just wondering what everything was right around it. And if we're extending R1, which happens in this next one, I guess since those people aren't petitioning to be R1,
They don't have to.
they don't have to be.
Yeah, they're multiple acre lots is what they are.
Yeah. I just wanted to.
Anything else? Do we have a motion to approve that ordinance?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance to extend the R1.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Scalzo,
Yes.
Rudick,
Yes.
Stankowski,
Yes.
Lolly,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Over on the public works side, we've got items 3B through C, D, E, and F. I'm gonna open all them simultaneously, and what that is these are both on section 1 and 2. One on the first one's water, on the second one's sewer, same with the first one's water, sewer, and then it's a DEQ. The last one is the lift station that we're doing down on Harrow Road, is what that is. And this is just sending, we get the permit to get a request from DEQ is what that is. This is authorizing us to move forward on all these. And actually, the planners did approve all of the Persimmon Valley's sections.
These are not actual permits.
No, we're applying, permit at the request. No, we're actually applying.
It says enclosed as a permit. On all of them.
Then,
Is that
It's
the
a
permit to construct?
yes, that's permit for the construction.
That's different.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I do it, permit to construct.
So these are permits to construct, and they're all for Persimmon Valley.
No, F
The
is
last
for,
one is not.
that's for the lift station on Harrow Road.
And these all are at our expense? Did we construct these extensions to the lines of Persimmon Valley?
These roll back over to the developer.
The developer does this.
Yes, that, all that piece rolls back to, other than the lift station, that's all, that's all.
We already put the sewer in there, and, yeah,
Right.
the lift station's on.
The lift station's on
Arrow
us,
Road.
but
Yeah.
the fees roll back to the developer, because there's other fees the developers have when they come in and start getting all their costs.
Right, okay. I'm good.
Do we have a motion to approve items B through F?
I'll make a motion that we approve items B through F.
Items D through F, is that not Harold Point? I'm looking at the agenda.
No, you're,
A through B says
A,
Persimmon Valley.
A is the treasurer's report, B is, Persimmon Valley 1, B is Persimmon Valley 1, one sewer, one's water, same with D and E, and F is the lift station at, on Hare Road.
River Road lift station is F.
So, anyway, we have a do we get a motion? Tim made a motion, we got a second?
Second.
Riddick,
Yes.
Lawley,
Yes.
Funkowski,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. I'm gonna open up items G and H simultaneously, drawdown. Discussion possible to approve drawdown number 63 and 64. Number 63 is for Myers Engineering of $6,048. This is on 29th Street on the staking, and the construction staking is 100% complete. On the project, there's just a little bit left, but this puts him at 88% complete. So he still has $25,000 left to speak of to finish up that job. And then the other one is for some testing that we did for, I think it's $80-something, 85, 35. We have a motion to approve the drawdown.
I make a motion to approve the drawdowns and pay request number 63 and 64.
I'll second it.
Scott,
Yes.
Funkowski,
Yes.
Lawley,
Yes.
Riddick,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Item I is discussion and review of utility deposits for landlords. I'm gonna let whoever, I think, Sammy, did you wanna say something about this, or?
Well, let me lead in, because I talked to him a
Okay.
little bit, but, of course, he had talked to me, a couple other people had talked to me about the fees that, the deposits that we charge on the people with the rent houses. So, I couldn't understand it at the time, because when I rent a house, and I didn't even talk to Bob on it, but when I rent a house, I gotta go put a deposit with the city to get the water turned on. But as I understood it, we're making the landlords of these houses put a deposit on it also, so there's actually two deposits at this house.
Wouldn't be two, it'd be one or the other, not two deposits.
Okay, so let me back up. Let's just say I go to rent the house. I put my deposit down and get the water turned on. 3 months later, I move out, have the water shut off, taken out of my name, I get my deposit back.
If it's paid in full, that's
If
correct.
it's paid in full. The landlord then has to come up and put a deposit down for water?
Well, not till the water's turned back on, and then it was gonna be between him and his tenant, who actually puts the deposit up.
So in essence, he really doesn't have to put a
Not if you
$100
don't,
deposit
not
down.
if you don't turn the water back on.
Depends on his
But wait a
arrangement,
minute.
some landlords provide the water, so they put up the deposit.
So is the water physically shut off?
Yes.
If you go in and request,
If I go in and I close out my bill, then the city comes out and physically shuts the water off
Correct.
to every house.
But if I'm the landlord and I want the water on, even though the house is vacant, then I'm gonna put the deposit up and keep the water on while the house is vacant.
Okay, got it.
Unless the
but-
renter leaves without letting anybody know.
So the house is gonna be vacant for a month, and we're gonna make the, owner of the house, the landlord, pay $100 deposit to turn it on to do some work in the house, and then maybe shut it back off again.
That's the way it's worded now.
Potentially, yes.
That's the way it's worded
That's the
now,
way it's
but in
worded.
some places, it's only $35 or $40 to turn it on, and then we know they're just gonna do some work, and it's gonna be shut off, and a renter's gonna put it in their name, and they're gonna make a deposit. Am I saying this correctly?
Now, you're saying it correct, but the reason the ordinance requires the owner to be responsible, and he has the option to pass it on to his tenant, is so that the owner has a better opportunity to control the quality of the person he rents to. And if that tenant goes off and leaves the bill unpaid, we don't have any tenant to collect from. But if the owner's still there, we can take it out of his deposit.
I get that, but wait a minute, you know, yeah. Okay. But now, the person that's renting the place leaves the place, I decide to rent, the same scenario. However, let me back up a bit. I was told that the landlord, let's say they had 10 houses, had to have a deposit on all 10 of those houses. Is that not true?
That is true.
The landlord has to put.
Well, whoever wants the water turned on has to, yes.
No, okay. I got 10 people that rent the houses, so I'm the landlord, I have no deposits, I have no money out with the city at all. As long as my tenants are renting those houses and they put their deposit up.
If you require the tenant to do it, yes.
Okay, if I require the tenant to, and then when they move out and shut it off, if they pay their bills, they get their deposit back. And the only way me as a landlord has to put money up is if I want the water turned
That's
back
correct.
on. Okay. Or if there's a leak in the house.
Well,
But if you shut the water off physically, we wouldn't know that. But if the water was on,
If the water's shut off, they're not gonna leak our water.
thank you.
Yeah.
I got that. But there's been some people that got bills that, you know, when the tenant leaves and they get a bill, they're expected to come pay it because the water really wasn't shut off. We're not really physically going out and shutting people's water off when they move out.
well, and back up on part of that.
I'm asking the city.
Okay, but on part of that behalf is, because I have rental property and I know, part of that behalf is, you know, if a renter has paid me, and then all of a sudden at the end of the month, they skipped out on me and I'm not aware of it, I mean, and then it's 4 or 5 days before I ever find out they're gone, there's a time period in there I may not really know.
But that person
they're-
didn't get their deposit back.
No, they
just
probably
skipped
didn't,
out.
yeah, they probably
They
just
skipped
they
out, the
probably did.
city's gonna get their $100, that 5 days isn't gonna make a
Sure.
difference at all.
But I don't call the city at that time and say, hey, my renter moved out and turn off the water. I just kind of leave it be and thinking, you know, it's not my responsibility. Now, if I need it turned on, I call them and tell them, turn it on.
Wait a minute, it's not your responsibility?
If I'm not,
The tenant
not if I don't
moved
need,
out.
not if I don't need the water on, I don't
The
mess with
tenant
it.
moved out, but the water wasn't shut
It's
off.
kind of like with OG&E, when they move out, I don't call OG&E and say, hey, the renter moved out. It's not my
That's
place
true.
to do
I
that.
didn't on mine either.
You know, they know, that they'll figure out to turn it off on their own. I mean, that's, you know. So same with the water. I don't call the city or any city and say, hey, they moved out, I need you to turn the water. I don't,
So if they didn't come out and physically shut it off for you and it was leaking inside the house, you're responsible for that water. Is that true? They're gonna send you the bill.
well, I mean, I don't know.
The
I mean,
city's gonna send
it
you the
depends
bill
on who.
because you're the landlord. And they moved out, they probably took part of it out of the deposit or something, but from that point on, it might be you.
It may be.
That's the way it should be.
I,
What I'm hearing now is we really don't have to put $1,000 down if I have 10 houses.
Well, if I
I
had-
really don't have to do
well,
that.
honestly, if I have
That's
10.
what I've heard.
Well, honestly, if I have 10 houses in the city, I can go put up a deposit on number one house. The person moves in, I can come to the city and say, I want my $100 back. They will give it back to you,
That's exactly right.
you know, and then I go, another house comes vacant or whatever, I go put up a deposit, they'll turn it on. So, no, I don't ever have to at one, but the convenience of leaving $100 or $150 in deposit, and they roll it from house to house for multiple landlords, makes it easy on that behalf.
So can I get some clarification? So I was under the impression that some people were having to put up a deposit on all their houses.
That's what I was told,
Okay,
that I would be
that's where that came
charged
from.
at least $100 per house that I own. And they could have reduced that down. I'm probably part of the problem here. I got a bill when Paul Wiggard moved out of one of my rent houses. He called and had the water shut off. And then I had another tenant move in the 15th of July and called and had the water put in their name. During that time, there was 400 gallons of water used. and I got a bill from the city for $48. And it's not the first time I've got a bill. My deal is, I think that when a tenant calls or comes down here and says, shut the water, or I'm close my account, that should indicate that they need to physically turn the water off. Because I've got houses sitting out there in the wintertime, and if the water's on and I have a leak, it's gonna do lots and lots of damage. So I prefer that you physically turn the water off, and then physically turn the water on. And that's the way it's happened in here since '87, and I've been renting houses since then. You would turn it off and turn it on.
So really, this is two separate issues. Sammy, I think this is two separate issues that we're talking about, and the issue you're talking about with turning the water off is something that we've researched since you brought that to our attention. And that is something that changed with a person that we don't have working here any longer, that we're going to rectify. You're right, that water should be turned off. When
Right.
somebody says they're vacating, that water should be turned off. So that's kind of a moot point. That's going to be handled. We discovered that as
Yeah.
we researched that.
So
We agreed.
if you handle turning the water off and on, I don't have a problem.
So then the only
If I-
reason you'd
if I
have to give
want
a
water-
deposit is if you
Right.
wanted it.
If I want water, I'll come down
Right.
like everybody else and put up a deposit and say, hey, turn this on, here's my deposit, and whatever.
And to the second point, just so that everybody's aware, and I think this is a good forum for this, we've reached out to ONL and that's Oklahoma Municipal League. Those are other municipalities, and those municipalities are giving us feedback on how they handle these types of situations. So we want to be fair, we want to do things the right way. We don't want to make knee-jerk decisions, we want to do it best practices, right? So that's what we're looking at right now. What we're asking for is for everybody to just give us the time
I
to
will.
do things the right way. That's the goal, right, is to be fair. So we'll come back to you, and one thing that a lot of people don't know, our system, the current system we use, some of the feedback that we've gotten from these municipalities, our system makes it cumbersome to manage those separate if we just have one deposit. That's not prohibitive, meaning we're not going to do it, but we've got to work within the confines. I've got to talk to my people too, because it does impact their workflow. I want them to be able to be present and share with you how that impacts their job as well, so that we make a decision that's considering all the stakeholders. If that's a fair way to look at it, I think that's really what we're trying to go for. So if you give us a little time, I checked today on the responses from ONL, we're getting quite a bit, and they're varied. So I'll just be upfront and say not everybody's doing it the way we're doing it, and so we're going to look at that. Does that help a little bit?
It does.
Well, you smiled at me. I don't know if that was a good smile.
If you get a smile, that's good.
Okay, good.
No, you gotta smile.
If Sammy's unhappy, you'll know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I know.
But, so,
Let's just get a rule and go with it. It's my deal, and you're working on that, so
Right, that's the goal. So
I'll give you
it's really-
some time.
Well, thank you, Sammy. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
but did I hear anything that sounded like it would be the landlord that made the deposit only? Cause it sounded like that you don't want too many people making deposit, cause it causes work for us here if we have to do too much.
That
That
is,
system is cumbersome.
the system's cumbersome, but in the opposite direction. So if we have to manage just one deposit and move it around, which is, I think, one of the things that was brought up, just to have one deposit for one property and kind of move that and make it floating. That's the part that's cumbersome in our system.
You don't even need to do that with what we just discussed.
Well, we're researching it.
That wouldn't even need to be done if you shut the water off. Turn
I've had the
back
water
on, you
turned
don't
on
even
twice
do
in
this
30
for-
years for my rental properties, twice.
Okay.
And I came down and did the
Right.
deposit, and
Sure.
so
It seems very
it's not a
simple to
big
do.
deal for me
Oh, I got you.
on the water, and it may be for some, I mean, you know.
I can think.
The mayor may need it every other month.
Well, he's artfully abstaining from this, so let me consider, I've got several different things kind of rolling around in my
Yeah.
head as far as ways I think might make this really fair, and I'll share those in a public forum, and then we'll bring all the stakeholders to the table, and we'll come with good information, and you can come back and you can visit with us about it. Does that
I
sound good?
probably won't come back.
You won't?
I'll be
That hurts
down.
my feelings.
I got a question. Let's say Sammy, he's got 10 properties. He came in originally, he puts a deposit on each one. $100. And the tenant leaves, he closes, they instead of him, I'm sorry, what you're saying, hold the money, so that money, the $100 would stay there where, it turns off, the money stays there, it's already been deposited. And then when he gets another renter, he can turn it back on, it won't cost him another.
Well, not,
right?
theoretically, you have the renter put up the deposit.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, he don't want,
If
he don't
he
want to put his
would, I know,
deposit
I'm just
back
saying,
down.
if he would do that, then that, if he closes it.
He can have it
stays
turned on
there,
anytime he wants.
But
And that's one of the-
it should be the person it's the renter, he opens the account, puts a deposit, when he leaves, he gets his deposit back or not. If that man wants his turned on, then he turns it on. That's pretty simple.
What?
That is very simple. And how we got confused that we'd have to put a deposit down for everyone, and some person in here who had 40 rentals would have to put down $4,000, and because the city wanted it, I don't know how we ever got to that, and I don't know if it was just hearsay or what.
Well, I was thinking, maybe that's what they were thinking, is that if the owner of the property puts it down, then if a guy leaves and you turn it off,
And
then
they
he
might
just,
for
he just turn it back
apartments.
on. I'm just
for
saying,
apartments, they
maybe
might
that was
do
the
it
reasoning,
that way.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with what you're saying.
Right ahead.
I got a question. All right, so now, here we are, I put my deposit down on my rent house. I should be the one getting the bill every month, correct?
Yes. At
So,
that time-
and
at
then
that
I
time.
relay that down to my renter.
Well,
So, I mean, technically,
technically, if
you're getting, if I do the deposit, and then my renter turns around and pays the water bill every month. So like I said, we have a discrepancy here. So technically, if I put my deposit down for my renter, I pay for the water bill myself, and I will relay that to him. So he will pay me
That
back.
would be your business.
That's
to do it
my
that way.
business.
That's your
So like I
business.
said, if I'm in the loop, if I pay the deposit and my renter moves in, I'm getting the bill, not the renter.
And that's a choice you make when you turn it on.
Yeah, but like I
Where
said,
you want the bills to be.
that's correct. So like I said, if I pay the deposit up front and the renter
and
will
reimburses
not
you or
get the
whatever.
bill,
Right.
I will be getting the bill.
Sure.
Okay, I
You
just
can-
wanted to
yeah,
make
you
sure,
can do
because we
that.
kinda had that up in the air, like,
you
you
can
know,
do
but
that.
I'll have to go back in and say, turn it back off, and then turn it back on for this guy right here, basically what you're saying.
No, you want, if you're paying the bill, you don't ever have to do
But
that.
I mean, I don't want to, but I'm just saying, as far as the deposit goes.
I don't want the bill in my name as a landlord, because the renter fills up
Yeah.
his neighbor's pool to be nice to help him out, not realizing it's costing him, and the thing of it is, then he moves out, and it's in your name, you're stuck with that bill.
I understand, and that's what I just wanted to have some clarification.
You want the renter to be stuck with his own bill.
Well, I just went through trying to get things turned off on a house, and it's an act of Congress getting things turned off because of the renter. And I didn't realize the utility companies are that bad.
No, you can't, if a renter's in your house, you can't call OG&E and say, turn off the
No,
power.
but I mean,
You
he's
can't-
moved out,
Unless you're the one that
he's
turned
been
it on.
moved
Yes,
out,
unless
I've
you're
had
the
everything turned off, but they're still saying, I need to get ahold of this guy to get this disconnected or taken care of, and it's not nothing with y'all, but I'm just saying, it is a royal pain in the butt, it's taken me 2 months to get natural gas turned off. It's that hard, so I kudos to y'all, I mean, we don't have that problem here.
I've got a question for the attorney. If we, have a renter and he runs his bill up, fills his neighbor's pool up, and he runs his bill up over his deposit amount, and then leaves, okay, that's when I would be responsible, is that correct?
No,
No,
bill's on
it's
him.
It's still on him.
It's on his credit,
It's on his credit, not yours.
You're not responsible for any of that, ever.
that's correct.
Unless you're the one that
Did
turned the
deposit.
water off.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna put on my checklist to make sure the city is paid before I give their security deposit back. And I will protect
Or
the city.
Or just make sure they do a meter reading prior
Yeah.
to you taking it back over. That's really
Right.
what you want, is a meter reading at that time. And they can do that electronically here,
Yeah.
so that's
Or it
pretty
turns
easy
off.
to do. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and, close this tonight. I mean, we're taking no action on that, and finish up the meeting, and, we'll start with, council members' comments. Who would like to start? Steve, you like to start?
I have nothing. I talk enough.
Chris?
I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a safe Happy New Year.
Bernadette?
Same.
Same thing, I appreciate all the work they do a work. Like I said yesterday, they
They do a lot of work, yes, they do. Bob, you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to make you all aware, we talked about it the last meeting I was here, that the city had been joining a lawsuit with the miner that was injured a hand at the lumber shack. They, after a conversation I had with the plaintiff's lawyer, they dismissed the city of Hara from that suit. So the suit's still pending against the lumber shack, but they're completely responsible for defending it and taking care of whatever injuries occurred. So the city of Hara is now out of the case.
Marty, I see you back there. You got anything you'd like to share?
No, sir, not today.
Okay. I don't see any other city members. Jamie, you have anything you'd like to share?
Just a couple things. So, we have received money and we'll be issuing a permit for O'Reilly's out there. And then also, O'Reilly's Parks. Did you want the song?
Here, 2 seconds. The city manager's got the floor.
Just one more thing, see if it's okay.
Yeah, right there next, across the street from where they moved that buildings out, them storage buildings. Yeah, across from AutoZone, more or less.
This is a little interesting. If you can spare me 30 more seconds, you're gonna like this. The parking lots have been received, and they're going to install them Monday, December 19th.
What was that after the,
Can I ask, I know I'm not supposed to talk, can I ask where?
Where we
You
ate the
said
other
the
day.
parking lot, okay, thank you.
I thought it was like the parking
She said it
lot.
was gonna interest you.
Right. And they're looking at the door
Are there any
too.
parking lots out here?
Hadn't, it's on the list.
Is that your building
She'll bring
resume?
it.
I love it.
No, you don't.
Dude, Karen gets to park on one side.
He
and I
doesn't
just-
like
Yeah, it's got our names on them.
Do you
Like-
like it, Karen?
I do.
Thank you.
I love it.
Well, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a good New Year, and we're adjourned.
And I'll see y'all next year.
See you next year.
Sure. So we don't have another meeting